Hey there, welcome to the garage. My name is Buck. I have Carson in front of me.
Howdy.
And today we're doing another cartridge talk, which actually we're not behind schedule, but we're mixed matched in our episodes. Because I wanted to do a cartridge talk every 5 episodes, and I didn't think about it, and I recorded episode 14 with you.
hmm
And then I recorded 15 episode with Dad, Papa Buck. But I let him pick the topic. And I
hmm
didn't I didn't even think. So that's episode 15. I was like, we'll publish it. So we're playing a little catch up here. We're going to do another cartridge talk, folks. We've done a lot of AR-15 stuff in the past recent episodes, and so I thought, granted, it is still AR based, but let's do a cartridge talk on the 7.62 NATO and let people breathe a little bit on the whole 223 thing. So 7.62 NATO is our cartridge talk today. We are going to put the 7.62 NATO and the 308 in the same episode. They're not like the same cartridge, but they are. And so we'll talk about both. Why not, right? In the meantime, though, Carson, we recorded last week. What's been going on in your end of the woods?
Oh man, let's see.
Have you gotten anything? Or
Yeah, well, I came up with a novel idea for a heat sink for my capstone project for mechanical engineering. And it just so happens that the inventor of heat pipes, like the computer cooling, like heat pipes and
hmm
stuff, is here in Colombia. Like the man who invented heat pipes, like the actual cooling systems that's in every laptop and every
Yeah,
computer is here in Colombia, and he works for the engineering department. He's the head of the engineering department here. He owns a company called Thermovant, and they made the oscillating heat pipe case for the Microsoft Surface.
really.
So there's this technology called an oscillating heat pipe, which I don't. There's a whole textbook. He
Yeah,
held a book to my face and was like, "This is my book.
yeah.
You should read it." And uh, yeah, that was pretty crazy to say that I invented something truly new
hmm
and there is viability to my idea. And he was probably researching this like through his company
Yeah.
to like sell.
Good for you, man.
So
What luck. I mean,
yeah.
that's the person to talk to
Yeah, I know,
lives
right?
where you're going to college.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
So yeah, for all you listeners out here, I definitely picked a co-host that was smarter than me, and I did that. I did that for a reason, I promise. So, um, I Carson does a lot of fancy talk, and that's fine. He'll explain it to me after the episode. I promise. So, well, with me, I don't have as large pickings as I normally do. Actually, most of the time, I don't have anything that comes up over the course of a week. So
Mhm.
this is going to be like more usual stuff. But I have a new tomahawk handle, which we have here at the table, with my tomahawk head on it. I got one from Cabela's. I was lucky enough it fit the tomahawk.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
This is cool. I like the shape of the handle, the teardrop.
Yeah, me too. And so with tomahawk head, it was a little funky trying to find a handle for them, especially when you get into like mass manufactured handles.
hmm
And so I was lucky enough that that one fit. And I just bought it from Cabela's, and I took a torch to it and I charred it
hmm
and then sanded it down so that it looked cool. Because why buy something if it's not going to look cool? But that's what's going on with me.
Very
So
cool.
moving into the episode.
You forgot. You got a new pistol too.
Oh no, we that's been
Oh,
covered.
oh,
And
okay.
yeah, episode 15. So that was Dad's episode.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you weren't here. That's okay.
My bad. My
No,
bad.
you're good. Um, so that's the Bull Armory 9 mil that I talked about last episode for you guys wondering what the heck's going on. But the 7.62 NATO, Carson, I wanted to ask you what your experience was with this cartridge. It can be 308 or 7.62 NATO, but I just kind of wanted to gauge kind of what's going on.
The first time I shot a 30 cal 7.62 cartridge was in third grade,
hmm
and it was like opening day of youth deer hunting season, like rifle. And we were sitting in a blind, and I'm in third grade. I'd never shot anything stronger than like a 223. And my dad, like, I don't know like what he was thinking, but I think we had a Ruger Mini 14, and the Mini 14 like didn't work. So I tried to shoot and it went click. Light strike didn't work. My dad had a 308 with him, backup gun.
Oh yeah.
So he was like, "All right, you're gonna shoot the 308," and I was like, isn't that a big
Isn't it a
sound?"
big book cartridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, it's not any bigger than a 243."
I mean,
Which I had shot before at the
yeah,
time, but he had loaded it down
sure.
real
Oh
lightweight for
yeah.
me. So maybe in third grade, I put this gun up to my shoulder and I shoot, and that was the first time I'd ever gotten scope bit. Like,
Oh my God, you got hit by the scope.
oh yeah, in
Oh
third grade,
God,
man.
that hurts.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget that. That was funny.
I have had close calls with my 338 Lapua.
Uh
And if you think getting bit by a scope, by a 308 hurts,
uh
like I said, it was a close call, meaning I felt the scope cap touch my brow,
uh
and even that I got a headache from. So
uh
it's like I got super lucky. I got to watch myself for that gun and I'm thinking about getting a different scope for it that has a little longer eye relief because
uh.
that thing will bite the heck out of you.
It sounds like a new muzzle brake is in order.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, yeah, the thing is break. So your first 30 cal was a 308 then.
Yes.
Because that is one thing. I mean, you can have what I like about the 308, and I'll just expose it for everyone, is that I'm a 30 cal guy, like through
Mhm,
and through. Like my first cartridge that I really fell in love with was 300 Win Mag.
mhm.
And so you can buy for a reloader like I am, you can buy 100 bullets that are 30 cal, 180 grain, or like 175 grain,
Oh yeah.
and you can load 308, 300 Win Mag. You can load 300 Blackout. I mean, there's such a palette that has so many different applications.
30 carbine.
Well, I think so.
I think those take. You could probably fit like a
Are
light
those? Yeah. Well, and I don't know. You'd have to check out the throat on that because I wonder if they're
and then
meant
the
for.
mag lengths. Like can it
Yeah,
fit
that's
in the
another thing.
magazine?
You can get Thompson contender and just navigate around all that. But
Mhm,
like 30 rum, 300 Weatherby, like it's such. I think 30 cal is a very um, not diverse, but like there's a crap ton of 30 cals. Like
mhm.
there's so many.
I mean, you say 30 cal, and the immediate thing that I think of is World War II, like the history of it,
Yeah,
just all that.
and that is important. I mean, we can kind of kick into the history while we're here. The 7.62 NATO specifically, and I will kind of talk about that in 308 in tandem because in effect they came out really close together.
Mhm,
7.62 NATO being the military adopted cartridge. You can find if you do some research that the 308 is very much connected to the 30-06,
mhm,
which two world wars and a massive step for firearms technology and the 30-06.
mhm,
So uh, what I like to talk about is family trees on cartridges, and we're actually talking about this before the episode started. But like you take a 30-06, and then Savage comes in. Oh, man, I'm gonna mess up a year here, but it was probably the 20s or the 30s, 1920s, 1930s, that Savage released their 300 and the 250 Savage,
mhm,
which the 250 Savage was named the 250 3000 because it was one of the first cartridges to break the 3000 feet per second barrier at
mhm.
the time, which is nuts to think about.
Yeah.
Because now 3000 is kind of like my threshold for am I going to shoot this cartridge?
Yeah.
So 250 and 300 Savage. And so the military took those cartridges and they're like, well, what can we make with this? And which those two are just cut down 30-06s. And then they made what was called the T65 cartridge, which eventually led to the 7.62 NATO when it was finalized. And so technically, I don't know if you could do this without having to ream the necks, but you could take 30-06 cases, cut them down, and then run them through a sizer die or two. And just be really careful with it.
Mhm,
You might have some neck thickness issues, I'm guessing.
mhm,
But technically, it's the same family tree, 308 from 30-06,
mhm,
which that's kind of the part that I like.
mhm. Yeah, that is cool.
So
No, I love it. 306 to 308. Yeah.
it's a sizable jump, I would say. A lot of people would argue that there wasn't much of a jump there in terms of firearm technology. I'd actually kind of like to get your take, having sort of a background involving ballistics and firearms,
Uh,
which helps. When you look at the 308 and 30-06, I'm a fan of 30-06, but I'm also not. I'm a collector of firearms that shoot 30-06. I don't
mm,
shoot it.
I don't shoot 30-06 at all.
No, because I mean, like I said, I have my 308, and then I
Mhm.
have a 300 Win Mag, and having a 300 Win Mag totally negates the idea of having a 30-06.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's also, some people could argue, less powder in a 30-06. You do lose some performance in the feet per second, but that's also the same argument of moving from a 30-06 to a 308.
Mm,
You lose quite a bit, actually, of, at feet per second. And then, um, I don't know. I like your thoughts, Carson, on is the 308 a cartridge that's kind of unnecessary nowadays?
I don't think so. I think 308, man, when I was in high school,
Hmm.
I thought that the 308 would never go away because it was a military standard cartridge,
Yeah.
7.16 NATO. I didn't think it would ever go away. And with this new round of, the military decided to go to the,
277 Fury.
yeah, the 277 Fury and all
Hmm.
that. And they're even considering like the 7 Norma Mag
Are they
for a
really?
new to replace the 308.
Whether is
Um,
a 7 Norma mag, is that replacing the 308 or the 300 Win Mag? Because
maybe 300 Win Mag.
I was about to
My
say, because
apologies.
I think they're either the same case or they're really close.
Well, I mean, by proxy, it's probably going to phase the 308 out as well. Like, what gun is going to use it? All their new LMGs are going to be using probably the 7 Normac or something similar.
Huh.
At least that's what I've seen in like a
Yeah.
lot of these new projects.
Who knows?
But like you said, you get a box of 180 grains. I think Burger 180 grain VLDs.
Great bullet.
Oh yeah, fantastic bullet.
And so that kind of goes into what kind of limitations are we running into with 30 cals? And kind of how I look at it is, when I started my collection, and I've kind of mentioned this quite a bit in the podcast, is I always wanted military cartridges
Mm,
because I know that that ammo is going to get made first, and then any run over is going to be available to the civilian population.
it's gonna be cheap.
It's going to be cheap. It's always going to be there.
It's gonna be in
So
every single store in America.
yes, for practicing for, because I wanted to grow as a shooter.
Mm,
I still have a wonderful gun collection, but like a collection of guns that shoot well and I can get ammo for is top tier.
oh
So
yeah.
I thought, okay, well, what bullet range do I want to cover here? And for the 308, you can get everything from a 110 VMAX, 110 grain VMAX,
Mm,
which is tiny for a 30 cal.
mm,
And then you can go all the way up to 220. I've even seen some 230 grain. I think they're Sierra Match Kings. I could be wrong on that.
mm,
Another great bullet. But that's 120 grain capacity in one bullet diameter,
mm.
which is insane. But you talk about performance in feet per second. I purchased the 308 so that I could shoot 150 to 170 grains. Because I think if you move up to 180, 190, 200,
Mm.
I think you're losing out on some performance versus if you were shooting it in something like a 30-06 or a 300 Win Mag.
Oh yeah. I
Because,
like those solid copper. I think they actually make some like 190 grain
oh,
30
really?
cals
Oh,
that are
God.
solid copper that you can shoot them blazing fast.
Really?
Oh,
Phew. That'd be a long bullet, wouldn't it?
I don't think they're too long actually because they're solid copper. They actually
Right.
they maintain like some volume.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
So they're fairly normal sized,
yeah. Hmm.
but they're just lighter
I
weight.
just know a lot of the copper hunting bullets when you like for 7 millimeter, which I know is off topic, but whatever. Um, for 7 millimeter, I have a 280 Ackley I've been wanting to load 150 grain regular lead bullets out of.
Mm,
But then I thought, could I go to a 150 grain copper hunting projectile and be okay?
mm,
And then I started thinking, well, technically, most of the time, those copper hunting projectiles are elongated versions of the same grains in their lead uh, counterparts.
mm,
So 150 grain all copper projectile is going to be a lot longer than a 150 grain
mm.
regular lead jacketed bullet.
What's that? It's not Underwood, is it?
What do you mean?
There's this,
I don't
yeah.
look at a lot of factory ammo.
There's this self-defense ammo company that produces like those solid copper, like screwdriver tip
Yeah, I've seen those.
bullets. I want to say it's Underwood.
Mm,
I want to say they make a 30 cal
yeah,
solid copper. That's super cool. I look at solid copper bullets as barrier penetrators and like quote unquote
yeah,
anti-armor solutions. So I look at loading like high velocity solid copper bullets for that
yeah.
reason. Plus you can also uh tediously put them in a lathe and drill them out and then put some tungsten welding rod in there.
Not that we've ever
Not
done
that
that.
I've ever done
Not that we've
that.
ever done that. I definitely have never done that. I wonder if
But
they make a 309 caliber because that's what 7.62 by 25 Tokarev shoots.
that'd be cool.
Fun fact.
Oh yeah.
309 diameter bullets. But so and kind of going back to the weight range. So my thought when picking out calibers was like, okay, I'll get a 308 because if I'm shooting like antelope or like small whitetails or even coyotes, honestly, that I don't want the pelt off of,
Mhm.
150 grain to 100 and what I say, 170 grain.
That you don't want the pelt off
Yeah,
of.
hey,
Yeah.
I don't care.
I'll blow a
You
hole
know,
clean through them.
I
Oh
shot
yeah.
a coyote with a 6.5 Creedmoor with a 140 grain boat tail hollow point with.
Mm,
Oh my god.
absolutely detonated that thing.
Yeah,
Dude,
blew the whole shoulder off him.
I have always had trouble killing coyotes.
Oh,
They
really?
don't want to die.
Oh, we'll have to go sometime.
I'll go. I'll
Yeah.
go. I'd love
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
Dude, every time I've shot a coyote, they run like 600 yards before they
You
die.
kidding? Dang. You're
I
using the
shot
wrong
one.
bullets, my boy.
I don't know. I've used like lead nose, like
Yeah. Interesting.
everything I've tried. No nice.
And so then moving up from the 308, I have my 3 in Win Mag. And my go-to with the 3 in Win Mag is 180 grain. That's like my sweet spot. I
Mhm.
love that bullet grain.
You get really good performance, 180 grain VLD. Like,
And I'm at just over 3 grand with that bullet. And
mhm,
I actually use Spear hot cores
mhm,
with boat tails, which are, I will say, shout out to Spear. Those are like totally underrated bullets.
mhm. That's
Totally
the
underrated.
hunting cartridge, a hot core.
Hot
I've
core.
actually never
Yep.
heard of those.
Yeah, no, they're cool. I also use those. They make a 311
Mm,
diameter bullet, and I use those for my Mosin
mm,
to shoot to reload that.
very
Look into
nice.
that 'cause they're slick. I've
Do you know
used
the BC of them?
not off the top of my head,
Mm.
but
That's what the manuals are for.
I could give two whatevers about BC, which is totally opposite of what you look at.
Well,
But
I look at BC because, like, if two bullets have the same BC, they're
yeah,
gonna at the same velocity, they're gonna have the same drop profile.
correct.
So that's the nice part about
I
comparing it
mean,
that way.
I look at BC when I'm comparing two bullets of the same weight and caliber, but
Mm,
at the end of the day, it's upon the shooter to compensate for wind and drop.
mm,
And so it's not that it's cheating going with a better BC. I don't view it as cheating, but it's like,
mm,
do you really need half an inch better drop to 300 yards if you have the skill to know that you should just compensate for another half inch at 300
mm.
yards?
Oh yeah.
It's like, so, I mean, yes, it's a consideration with wind drift, but like, I don't know. I don't take it as seriously as a lot of people do.
Mm,
Like it's not that I won't buy a bullet because it has a low BC. I don't care. If it
mhm,
has the profile that I want and if it has the capacity to put animals down, if hunting's the application,
mhm.
then yeah, I don't.
That's the nice part about 30 cal is everything. It's been around for
Yeah.
almost 100 years.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point about the 7.62 NATO is that if you buy a bolt gun, which fun fact, most rifles that get made nowadays have a chambering for 308, which you can fire 7.62 NATO out of.
Mm.
So I mean, the availability,
Now everyone's going the way of the 6.5,
they've
6.5
been going
Creedmoor.
away to the 6.5. And granted, credit where credit is due. I love the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Mhm,
I I have the same gun. I have a pair of Savage 12s in 308 and 6.5. They both shoot lights out.
mhm,
I'm fine with either one. I still think there's a romantic side to the 308 that just makes me come back to it. And so what we were just talking about there, 308 was one of the first loads I did by myself. Like totally, I did a three and Win Mag load that my dad and I did together. and a 223 load that my dad and I did together.
Mm.
But like by myself, I was able to go into a 308 and find an accurate load for it by myself for the first time as a hand loader, being cautious, of course. But like, if you have an issue with 308 or 762 NATO, I guarantee you someone else has had that issue before.
Oh yeah.
So like, if you're finding a solution, you can find the solution.
Every forum known to man. 308's there.
I have very mixed feelings about forums. I have very mixed feelings about.
Bubba's load
You
data.
can
It's where the forum.
it's almost like you can find anything you want on forums.
Yeah.
I think you can because half the time it's just fuds that
Uh,
have nothing better to do.
uh,
And then other times it's Bubba's. It's like, well, I loaded,
Bubba's confirmation bias.
yeah, I loaded 100 grain into this 308 case and it was fine.
Uh,
Like, no, no, it wasn't,
buddy, I'm
Bubba.
compressing the powder on this
Yeah,
one. Something's wrong with
I
this load
once,
data.
I I once read so I'm on a bunch of Facebook groups too. And I once read a Facebook post that was a guy who couldn't fit a bunch of Varget into a 308 case. So he had to take it was some vibrator of some sorts, not a dirty one, I promise, folks. But like it was a vibrating tool and he had to put it to the case so that it would
They
vibrate
tap it
to
down like
tap it
yeah.
down. And I'm like, is there zero red flags going off in your head right now to be like, hey, maybe this case is as full as it's gonna get.
Uh,
You know,
let's see.
at what point do you just like maybe I should reduce powder load?
You mean I told you about those tangent from 308, but when I told you about those 9 millimeter hand loads that I
Yeah,
did, I think I put 17 grains of blue dye in them, and I was packing it.
which it's like for me when you're looking at pistol powder, and granted I have like zero experience with pistol reloading,
Uh,
mind you. So if I say blasphemous stuff right now, don't hate me too much. But like from what I've seen in the limited load data I've looked at, if you're getting into the teens of powder with pistol powder, it's like okay, what are you doing here?
better check the same spec
Better check
before
the
you
same. Yeah.
shoot this thing.
What kind of pressures am I
Dude,
running at?
Windows 7, dude, that was bad. It was real
Yeah.
bad. Like I don't think those are safe to shoot. I shot a couple, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
they're pushing.
Yeah.
But
So on 308, I found a really good load with BLC2, which I started reloading in the middle of COVID.
mm,
So BLC2 was like the only thing you could find on the shelf. So I kind of had to find a load for it.
mm,
So I got pretty lucky in all things considered. But like if I ran into an issue, I checked forums, I checked Facebook posts, all kidding aside. Like I did check those sites and I was able to find what I was looking for.
mm,
Another consideration there is AR-10s or LR-308s, which we talked about a lot in the last episode that you and I did, Carson.
uh,
But like LR-308s are tough because it's not a standardized metric when you're looking at dimensions.
mm,
That is known, that's been known. AR-10's been out for a very long time.
mm.
LR-308s have been around for a long time. People have been building them. They're not as popular to build because of that, but I wish they were. I wish they were more popular.
Dude, there's so many good cartridges you could shoot out of an AR-10 platform,
Yeah,
like AR-10 LR308.
sure. Yeah. Well,
They
just
have the magazine length. You can
mhm.
fit some really nice bullets
Yes.
in there, especially for like 243. Like you
Yeah.
can get a real long 243 in those
Well, and
magazines.
not to mention, if you look at like case dimensions and cartridges like the 260, I'll point out, and the 243, which both have really shallow shoulders,
Uh-huh.
that shoulder profile would be fantastic in a magazine fed gun
Uh-huh.
because the feed ramps and the shallow shoulder. Something like a 6.5 Creedmoor, I feel like would be a little bit more of a challenge because you do seat those out a lot longer,
Uh-huh.
and then you do have a sharper shoulder profile. So you may run into semi-automatic feeding issues, but still, I mean, they make uppers for them, and people shoot them all day.
Uh-huh.
So like they're out there.
Uh-huh.
But going back to if you have an issue putting together an LR308 together, like
Uh-huh.
I did, and I did have some issues, you can find why there are issues online.
Yeah.
Versus something like the 277 Fury, dude, if you were building a gun in that and you ran into something, what would you do? If you weren't a gunsmith, granted.
Oh, well,
So like
yeah. You'd
that's
have
the
to
thing.
know.
You
You'd have
you
to.
have to know. It's not like, and this is also kind of a pet peeve of mine where like people will snap an AR-15 upper and an AR-15 lower together and be like, "I'm a gunsmith," or
Mhm.
or something to that degree,
Yeah.
and they'll know everything, quote unquote. But like, then if you were to build something like a 22 arc maybe, which
Mhm.
granted Hornaday's done their work, that cartridge might come out and be like a flawless transition into building guns,
Mhm.
but on the odd chance that it's like the 224 Valkyrie,
Mhm.
people were building 224 Valkyries right when it came out, and then when they were running into issues, they're like, "What's going on?
Mhm.
Like, what is this?" And no one had answers because no one had experienced it for 20 to 30 years like the 308. And
Yeah.
so they're like, well, take it to a gunsmith. And then that's the issue, that's the solution, and that is the end all be all.
Mhm.
And that costs money.
Yeah.
So I'm cheap.
Exactly. But everyone and their mom knows how to diagnose AR-15 issues.
Yeah.
So that's the nice part is like if you get a new loading, like six arc, I
Mm.
think that's coming out. There's probably going to be some.
Six Arc's been out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen an AR in it though.
No?
That'd be cool though if there
Uh
was an AR.
Brownells has a Howa 1500, just oh gosh, it's just the whole gun without the stock.
Mm,
Barreled action, that's what it's called.
mm.
Like 420 bucks in 6 arc and 6.5 Grendel. Oh, dude, it
Dude,
was so tempting.
six arc. If six arc is probably one of the only cartridges I'm actually considering buying the reloading equipment for
Really?
because it's high performance and such a
Sure.
small profile.
Yeah.
Like small relativistically.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like it's the only cartridge that I feel could compete with like a 7 millimeter, in my opinion,
Ooh.
in the special size.
Ooh. Yee. In
Well, you
special
think
size.
about um the how long of a bullet you can get in a six R
Sure.
compared to like a 7 millimeter
Right.
mag. You can't.
Well,
I don't think you can
yeah,
get
but like
higher BCs.
sevens can get higher BCs. They're shooting like 180 grain sevens right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, granted there are issues, but you're also looking at, let's compare apples to apples when we're talking about 6 arc. What is in that cartridge size that's
Hmm.
being shot from, let's just call it AR-15 magazine compatible in a 7?
Mm.
It's a short list.
708 is what I was getting at. My bad.
Oh, 708.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
that's what I was.
I was about to say you said 7
Yeah,
round mag,
my
and I was
bad.
like,
Yeah, 708. I love a 708. That was my favorite cartridge for the
yeah,
longest time
it's a good
because
one.
seven is a great bullet.
I wish I could love sevens. I
Hmm.
wish I could. I have had zero success. I had zero, and I want it to work because like I see the ballistic advantage. I see what it can do for me, and I know there's an application for it.
uh,
I started with 7 Mauser, couldn't get it to shoot. I
mm,
have a 280 Ackley now. I can't get the dang thing to shoot.
yeah.
And it's like, granted, I know what the issues are and I
Mm,
know what the shortcomings are, but I just wish it was like the 308 in the sense that I went out there with load development and I came back with results that I based a load off of and it's accurate. Like
mm,
bing, bang, bada bop, boom, pow.
yeah.
Just one line of stuff that I did and now I have a load versus
Mm,
sevens that I've been trying to reload and I've had zero results.
mm. Wow. You're I have seven's such a popular round
I
in
know.
PRS.
I know.
Like what?
It's like I really
Maybe
wanted
not
to work
seven
out.
Mauser, but
No.
seven RSOMs. I think there's some people that shoot 708 in
Yeah.
like some of those lower classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of those Wildcat cartridges and a lot of stuff that I don't know the names of that are being shot in PRS, and
Mm,
um, it's insane. But if the only cartridge that I can think of that comes to mind when I think of like 22 or 6 arc, excuse me, like comparison size is 7 millimeter bench rest.
mm.
Do you know anything about the cartridge?
Seven bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Seven
I've
bench
seen
rest.
it on a I've seen the case diagram before, but it's been a minute since
It's a
I've
little
looked at it.
funky.
Hmm.
I picked up.
Big square looking shoulder, like 40
Oh
degree
yeah.
shoulder, right?
So and that was oh gosh, that was a cartridge that was benchmarked by Remington.
Was it?
Yes, and it
Ackley
came out.
improved.
What about it?
Who's? For some reason, I thought those bench rest rounds, like the 6BR and stuff,
A lot of
came
people.
from like Ackley.
I don't know. I mean, I won't say that they won't. I know some people will Ackley-ize a lot of their cartridges for competition,
Mm-hmm.
but like in the case of the Seven Bench Rest, it was a Remington cartridge that they
Mm-hmm.
released with their XP100,
Mm-hmm.
which single shot silhouette pistol that it was originally chambered
Bring them
in
back,
221. Please,
dude.
ugly stock, but bring them back.
Uh,
221 Fireball and 7 millimeter bench rest. I
mm,
actually own the 7 millimeter bench rest XP100.
that's
Um,
cool.
oh, it's nuts. It's a cool gun. I even got the original leather case for it.
Mm,
Dude, it's
dude.
nuts. And then I actually found, and this is a crazy story. I understand this isn't 308, folks, but this is entertainment, so
Oh yeah.
whatever. Um, I used to live in northeastern Colorado, and there was a little gun shop in a town called Holyoke, which is like 200 people.
Mm,
But there was a gun shop there. And I remember the nearest Walmart from that town was an hour away. It was in the middle of nowhere. And so I went into this gun shop and they had, like many gun shops have, they had like a $5 bin. So like
mm,
anything in the bin, it's like old slings or junk.
mm,
And it's like anything in this bin is $5. And there was a coffee can. I look in the coffee can, just a crap ton of brass. A
mm.
lot of brass. I'm like, well, I wonder what it is. I look at it and it is like factory Remington 7BR brass,
Nice, dude.
which I don't even know if they make it anymore. I
Yeah.
doubt they do.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. And so a lot of 7BR cases are made from cutting down 308 cases because it's the same. We're
Yeah.
still talking about the same family tree.
Mm,
It's the same case head. That's what drives me nuts about 308 is like so much has come off of it.
mm,
And so 7BR, same case head. So a lot of 7BR brass, if you were to pick one up, you'd look at the case head stamp. A lot of them would say 308 or 260, 243, whatever,
mm,
because they cut them down and make them.
mm.
And then you'd throw that away because like this isn't what this is, and I don't know what it is, so I'll toss it. These are, and so I bought the coffee can. I actually left that day without the coffee can. Clarification. So I left the gun shop. I didn't buy it, and I ended up moving away. And I came back. It was 2 years after I originally saw that coffee can. I just for just for giggles, went to that gun shop and I went in. That coffee can was still there after 2 years,
That's
just sitting there.
amazing.
I don't know how it happened.
Uh,
So I looked and it still had that 7BR brass. I bought it right there. $3. There ended up being 110 cases in that coffee can. I
nice.
bought 110 case. That they're worth like $1.50 case
That's
for
a
unloaded.
steal.
Like, yeah.
You
And I
robbed that place, dude.
110 cases for $3.
Uh,
Oh gosh.
dude, you couldn't even drive to the range and sweep up the
No.
brass for that much.
No. And even then
You
not
wouldn't find any 7BR.
no. You could go that is a cartridge you could go your whole life and you would never see a gun chambered in it or the brass.
I've never held a 7BR in my hand before.
Right. And so I was ecstatic to make that. But like if you look at so that cartridge versus the 6 arc, it makes me curious. I haven't looked at them side by side, but like what is the 6 arc doing that the 7BR wasn't back in the day?
Hmm.
And is like is this just something that like
Marketing.
maybe, and maybe, because there was a lot of lack of that back then
Uh,
when you didn't have computers and social media and all that stuff. So, like, the 280 Remington was almost a lead balloon because they chambered in the wrong guns.
mm,
They made a lot of marketing issues with
mm.
the cartridge. And so the 280 Remington fell into obscurity.
Honestly, but could we bring back those like old Winchester posters from back in the day with the dudes like fighting bears and stuff like
I
that?
wish,
If
and
only.
so granted, like Remington, I follow their Instagram and they still put out a lot of those old poster images, and they're like,
Mm,
option this. I
mm,
find that's pretty cool. I would also find it really cool, like, Hornady sends out their like newest cartridge in the mail to like subscribers or whatever,
mm,
and it's a bunch of Hornady cartridges, but they also have a poster in
mm.
there.
I have a
Yeah.
collection of those
Why?
posters.
And like, why wouldn't Remington or Winchester start making those posters again, like retro
Oh yeah.
images, and just be like, hey, by the way, Remington's releasing this year,
Mm,
and here's a poster for it. You
that would
know,
be awesome.
granted, I don't think Remington or Winchester are coming out with very much nowadays,
Mm,
especially with Hornady on the scene, but you never know. Um, Regardless, we're talking about 308. That was a deep rabbit hole. I'll admit that.
Same cartridge family.
What is?
7BR to
Oh, yeah,
308.
yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, I lost track there. A lot of cartridges in my head floating around right now. Um, so reloading the 308 was really forgiving for me, which was nice to start with. Granted, it was a little misleading because then I think I went from the 308 and I went and tried to do a load. I think I went to a 7 Mauser when I
Mhm.
first started trying, and
Why a 7 Mauser?
I had the gun. So
What
I,
what gun do you have a 7 Mauser
wow, dude. So
in? A Mauser?
yeah, I had bought I had bought a Czech. It was Czechoslovakian VZ-24
Uh-huh.
Mauser, sporterized
Mm-hmm.
in 7 by 57 Mauser,
Uh-huh.
at auction for dirt cheap. It was an unfinished stock, and it didn't have the butt pad at the end of the stock.
How sporterized was it? Like,
Uh, it was a different. It was a walnut stock. So like someone took
mhm.
the original stock, scrapped it, and then put a new one on, which a lot of people have
I'm
done.
thinking like flame torch bent the bolt handle down,
No, but that was actually
took the sights off.
that was not a straight bolt
Uh,
Mauser. So that was a curved
gotcha.
bolt in the first place,
Oh.
which thank God.
Yeah.
I don't like straight bolts.
Mm,
Um, but so I finished the walnut stock on it. It was one of my first like wood stock projects. Turned
mm,
out gorgeous. I'll have to show you pictures afterwards.
mm,
Um, but I think, and I don't have a bore scope, so I couldn't check, but I think the throat on that was shot out.
mm,
And so I couldn't load, like I was using 139 grain soft points, which is just the cheapest bullet you can get for sevens.
mm,
I was literally backing the seating die all the way out. I would put the bullet in the case, throw the ram down, not throw it, but like I would seat the bullet like a couple of thousandths into the case,
mm.
put it in the rifle, and nothing. Like the bullet wouldn't stick. Usually the bullet sticks in the rifling, and then it pushes it back into the case, and now you have a contact point that you can base, okay, how many thousandths off the rifling do I need to be?
Yeah.
That's how I do it. It's kind of hillbilly
No,
when you think about it.
I think that's how all the old guys used to do it, right?
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
classic.
Yeah.
So,
But I did that, and I would pull it out and be the same length.
mm,
So, and 139 grain 7 millimeter bullet, it's not that it's stupid long, but you look at it in the case, seated like a couple thousandths, it looks comically funny. Like it's ridiculous. And
uh,
so I was like, okay, yeah, this throat's probably shot out. Or it's such an early Mauser that they
mhm.
were still using those stupidly long round nose bullets. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, those
Oh
big
my God,
like
dude. Like,
Kachano looking rounds
oh
that
God.
uh,
Stupid. Stupid
yeah.
long. I'm like, I wonder, it's either it's shot out or that's what they used back in the day on this barrel, and the throat's just so stupidly long. So I could never find a good jump point that would group well in that rifle.
Hmm.
Granted, I don't know if the scope I had on it was any good. So I mean, I don't know. I ended up trading that rifle actually to pop a buck, for a present to my girlfriend. Yeah,
Oh,
he traded me a Thompson Center Compass and 6.5 Creedmoor with Boyd's
mm,
hardwood stock on it. It's pretty
looky
nifty.
there,
Yeah.
looky there.
So, but yeah, in terms of 308, it was a little misleading with how easy it was. So like, be careful of that. If you do start with 308, it might be very easy to get your load. Watch out for the next cartridge you load. Don't start with 7 Mauser. Start with something a little bit more common, but also might offer you a little bit more challenge.
300 Wood Mag.
That fantastic. That'd be a fantastic next step.
That's what I like about 308 actually.
Yeah.
The whole family. They're so well established that it's easy to do whatever you want with them.
Yes.
You can load it down
Yeah.
super lightweight, super fast for barrier
Hmm.
penetration, etc. Then you can load it up for like PRS matches, stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
people getting into PRS shoot 308 a lot of times because
Hmm.
it's cheap and available.
And they make like specific competitions.
308 only.
It's called Is it F class? I think it's F
I
class.
think.
And they make specific F class divisions that are
Hmm.
specifically like you can only use 308.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hmm. Those are
And
the kinds of matches that I'm actually interested in
yeah,
because
yep.
I don't have 20 grand to go drop on a new 7 Arson, with all the
280,
reloading
yeah, 280
equipment.
Ackley or like 280
Yeah.
Sherman mag or like whatever these guys are shooting. at some point that like throwing out words
Hmm.
following by calibers that you've never heard of, like just complete and utter
Uh,
custom guns. But you put everyone with a 308, and they even make it to where like there are specific divisions where like if your rifle is all stock from the factory, you're in this class.
mhm.
Versus if you have a custom gun, you're in this class. I love that
Yeah.
because I don't want to put. I mean, that 308 I
You,
showed you
yeah.
cost me $300.
Yeah.
Granted, and so part of this, I shot 1,050 yards of that gun
Uh,
with a $300 rifle and a scope that I think it's like a $400 scope from Primary Arms.
mhm.
And under a grand, I'm at 1,050. But I don't want to be shooting against some dude who's got custom barrels and
$30,000
oh
worth
my
of
god,
fitness gun,
and
Night
shoots
Force scope.
yeah, shoots one ragged hole at 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't make me want to compete.
Yeah, there's no competitive. You don't have a. You
No,
can't compete with it like at
no,
all.
you can't. So like in terms of application, that is one thing to love about the 308. A lot of people bag on it. Can you believe that?
308.
Yes, on 308, I swear.
I kind of understand some of the hate because while these VLD bullets do exist, the Sierra Match Kings, they are outclassed by some of these larger and newer case designs and
Emphasis on newer.
calibers.
I want to put that because so there's a YouTube channel that I do watch. Have you heard of Ron Spomer?
I haven't.
Oh gosh, if you ever want to get like frustrated at FUDs, you watch his channel
Mm,
because he's an old writer, magazine writer for whatever magazine he wrote for that was firearms related. So
mm,
he made a living off of hunting and writing about it
mm,
in the day. So that being said, he's a 30-06 guy.
mm,
I've said it before. I have nothing against 30-06. There's a reason our firearms technology is where it is today. 30-06 needs to be attributed to that because all of these cases that we're saying are from the 308. The 308 came from the 30-06.
mm.
So, but he does not like the 308 because you lose however many, maybe like what, 100, 200 feet per second moving to a 308.
Uh,
And then you can't use heavier weight bullets
you
technically.
lose case
You lose
capacity.
case
Yeah.
capacity, which more feet per second. So he doesn't like it. And I get where he's coming from, but I
Mm.
don't like hearing people hate on the 308 so much.
Yeah.
Because like you don't realize how many youth people start learning how to shoot on 308.
Mm,
How many deer are taken a year because people have a 308 instead of a 30-06. And so like I understand he's not saying that it's an unusable cartridge, but like it's a 30-06. Buying ammo is a lot more expensive for that cartridge, especially nowadays. Loading for it, you're going to use more powder,
mm,
um, and you're in a long action. Some people don't like that. Some people do.
mm.
Whatever. I don't care. But it is a longer bolt throw. And I don't know. There are pros and cons to both. I just can't see myself shooting a 30-06 over the 308.
Mm.
And maybe that's just because I have a 300 Win Mag, which is kind of the cheat code.
I don't shoot. Well, I own a 30-06 and 300 Win Mag, both.
Everyone should own a 308 and a 30-06. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
We have a BAR, like not the like machine gun BAR, but the new
Yeah, the
the modern,
Browning
yeah, the sporting
modern rifle.
rifle.
Yeah.
Um, in 30-06, and we're actually selling it because it's been sitting in the safe for 20 years.
I
Hasn't
have
been
a
shot.
I have an unsporterized 1903 A1 or A2.
Gorgeous,
Oh, dude.
gorgeous.
So after World War II, and this is a fun fact, again, not through away, I don't care. After World War II, uh, the Marines and actually the civilian marksmanship program took a
Mm-hmm.
lot of 1903s, and this actually might have been after World War One. They took a bunch of those rifles, rebarreled them, and then put them through the CMP program.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a rebarreled United States Marine Corps 1903 rifle. And if you know anything about the A1, A2, A3, A4, you know that the
Mm-hmm.
A1 and A2s have different sights, rear sights specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And they are some of the weirdest, like you'd need a bachelor's degree to work some of these rear sights.
I've seen the flip up one with the circular thing that you
Yep.
slide up and down.
Yep. I'm pretty sure that's either A1 or A2. And then the A3, I think they moved to where it's on the rear bridge
Uh,
of the receiver, and then A4 is the sniper.
yeah.
Um, and so mine's either an A1 or an A2. And I wanted to shoot that for a long time. I haven't yet. But it's like, again, it's like I've shot my 308 out to 1050. I've shot my 300 Win Mag out to 1050. I
Mm,
don't really need one that bridges the middle. If you're shooting 30-06, I think there's a desire to want more performance out of something like a 300 Win Mag, and dare I say the 300 Rum
mm,
or the 300 Weatherby Magnum. I'll say that because I actually am not the biggest fan of the Rum.
mm,
But like that's where I went from. It's like, okay, I have noticeable steps where I can put 150 to 170 grains in my 308 and be just fine. Any animal, I'll have the confidence, it's accurate, it's repeatable. Um, I'm fine with that. And then the next jump in performance, I would say I would skip the 30-06 and go to the 300 Win Mac because there's not enough performance jump to go to the 30-06.
mm.
There is enough performance jump to go to the 300 Win Mac.
Yeah.
And then, so if you go the opposite way that I did and you start with a 30-06, if you want a performance jump from there, you go to a 3 Win Mag. And if you do that, it's like, well, it's kind of the same argument as 3 to 3 to 30-06. It's like, well, it's not that big of a jump.
Mm,
It is, but it isn't. And so you think, well, what do I get if I'm not shooting at 30-06? And then you get into 300 Weatherby, 300 Rum,
mm.
some real hot stuff.
Well, it's like, uh, I guess, kind of to bring it back, bring it full circle,
Sure.
the design intent of the cartridge, right? You said
Mhm.
that the military was developed with the 308 or 7.62 NATO
Yeah.
from the T64 cartridge.
Yep.
So during that program, they were looking at lightening up their
Yes.
bullets because
Yeah.
they were all carrying 30-06. You
Which
can only
is
carry
it's
so
a
much.
longer case.
Uh,
It's a longer case, but also I think what a lot of people underestimate, Carson, when you're reloading cartridges, especially in bulk. Granted, maybe the U.S. government didn't care as much about it as I did, but like
mm,
I'm shooting um, 223, for example. I have grains that are somewhere in the 20 grain area, 20 grains of powder. If I wanted to shoot a 22 250, which is a hot rod
mm,
compared to the 223, I have to increase my powder load significantly
yeah.
to get that performance.
The 22 250, those hold like 30, 35 grains of powder. Yeah.
But like what people don't understand is when you're buying powder, I can get 350 cases of 223 fill with 1 pound of H335. That's my
Mm,
choice of powder in a volume relative powder in a 22 250. I'm using more powder for the case, which is self-explanatory.
mm,
But like I only probably only get through 150 to 200 cases of 22 250 until I need to buy another pound.
yeah.
So what kind of, this is the idea coming full circle, what kind of savings would the government get if instead of loading 50 to 60 grains of powder in a 30-06, how much are they saving by going to 35 to 45 grains of powder in a 308?
No idea. I mean, you sit down and do the math.
Oh, and like 10, 20 grains is like, okay, who cares?
um,
But like, they're making millions, multiple millions of rounds. So you put it into the scale of, okay, 10 grains isn't a lot until
mhm.
you're talking about the difference of
Millions and millions
millions
of
of rounds.
cartridges.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're probably saving some millions of dollars.
mm. I guess like I I'm recalling the intent of that program back in the day, and
Hmm.
it seems like they were trying to get more bullets
Yeah.
on a human being.
Yes. Yep.
So that's why they like went with M16A2 or
Right.
A1
Yep.
and in 223.
Yep.
And then they went from 30-06 and they developed the 308 or
Right.
7.62 NATO. And they realized, okay, let's load this cartridge up hot, and they developed the 7.62 NATO from the 308
Hmm.
because it has a thicker wall thickness
I'm so glad you brought that.
at the case head, right?
If you hand load 7.62 NATO, please take your powder charge back a couple notches. And so like 223 and 556, I don't do that for because there's so much. I'm like 99% sure it's the same brass. They just slap a different name on it.
Mm,
However, 7.62 NATO and 308 is not that way. It is not the case.
mm,
They are different pressurized cartridges.
mm.
completely. I've had not overcharges, overpressures when
Mm.
shooting 7.62 NATO. And it was a 7.62 NATO case loaded with 308 powder in terms of volume. And traditionally, you're supposed to take about 2 grains off your 308 load, and that's your 7.62 NATO load to
Mm.
stay under pressure. And you get primers that pop out, like totally not even flat, just they stuck to my bolt
Oh,
face.
yeah.
And
Mm.
that's a dangerous situation.
Bulge primers, you'll shoot the back out of the primers. And on
Yeah.
some of these bolt guns, like Remington 700s, it's an open, like
Yeah.
you can get those primers
Going
and
into
shoot
your
straight into your
yeah.
eye. And I've had
Yeah.
that happen. I'm wearing safety glasses, and whenever I'm doing load development
Oh, you're a
for
better man than I am.
7.62, I've had primers pinch out like
It,
where the firing pin goes and go
wow.
clean through the bolt and into my eye. Like it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's
I'm glad you brought that up. They are two different cartridges.
yeah, they're very different.
You know,
You need to account for that volume difference inside the
and
case.
granted, I'd like to say pretty comfortably that every gun made in 308 is actually chambered in 308, which
Mm.
is the one that can shoot both. But you do need to consider when you're hand loading what kind of powder charges. That was the first time I realized that I needed to use the same head stamp for my reloads. So
Mhm.
I couldn't use just my bulk brass that I had, federal cases, Hornady cases, um, Lake City ammo cases. You can't do that
Mhm.
because you'll get.
Yeah, I've shot a lot of reloaded Lake City brass. That's good brass, in my opinion.
I have, so I don't have Lake City. I have, it's the head stamp is SAR 10 or SAR 11,
Mhm.
and it's like Greek, Turkish, or something. It's
Mhm.
somewhere there in the Mediterranean. And I bought it was ammo incorporated ammunition
Mhm.
that came in 120 rounds in this little ammo box, and it was red marked at my Murdoch's for like I think it was $60 for 120 rounds
Mhm.
of fully loaded ammo.
Mhm.
I bought like 6 cases of that stuff, so I think I have well over 1,000 potential cases. I'm still working with factory ammo, but like
Mhm.
that to me was awesome because now I've just picked up. I'm gonna become such a better shooter from shooting 1,000 rounds of 7.62 NATO,
Uh,
and then I have all the same head stamp brass to reload with all that knowledge that I just gained.
mhm.
It doesn't get any better than that.
That's my favorite part about Lake City
Yeah.
brass is not because it's super consistent,
Hmm.
because I think I've reloaded some of that Lake City brass like 8 or 9 times, and it
Oh
still hasn't
gosh.
split yet.
Yeah.
And it's like brass from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like I think I have some brass that's head stamped like from the 70s.
Right.
That's still good, and it's been reloaded almost 10 times.
And granted, maybe you're not getting your best bug hole groups on
Yeah,
it,
you're not gonna, of course, don't.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, though, if you're under 1 MOA,
uh,
I think you should
you
be
know, if
pretty
you're,
happy.
especially here in Missouri, you're not going to be
Oh
shooting a
God.
thousand yards out here.
Even if you're at 1 MOA, the
Hmm.
worst you're looking at is a 3 inch group at 300 yards in
Hmm.
Missouri.
Yeah,
And 3 inches, it's perfectly average size group.
yeah. When I accidentally, like even at my place, like I accidentally have a 670-yard range because the government condemned the property and built
Yeah.
a power line.
Which is why which is one of the great reasons I'm friends with you, Carson.
Just accidentally.
Because you are one of the few people in Missouri that get access to a range like that. And people in Nebraska, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, a lot of people in those states that get access to long distance ranges are going to think we're crazy, but like
Uh,
it is special in Missouri to know someone who has access to something past 300 yards.
yeah.
And then at the same time, it's either that or you go to a gun club. You
Hmm.
pay ridiculous amounts for a membership
Hmm.
to be able to shoot long distance.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous. I have always refused to pay a membership fee
Hmm.
because it's always in multiple hundreds of dollars for a year, and then you're still obligated to do work.
Hmm.
And I want a place I can go. I can take the guns out of my car, put them on the bench, I can shoot, and I can leave afterwards. Take my
Yep.
target with me if I want
Hmm.
to, take my brass, and steal all the um, brass bucket brass I could get
Yeah.
because I'm a brass goblin
Oh yeah. Me too.
always.
I sweep it all up.
Oh god, I once found, and I know this is off topic, folks. We're almost done though. Um, nickel plated 224 Valkyrie,
Beautiful.
like
What's that, like $2 a
oh
cart
my
a case? Just for the brass.
40 cases of it in a bucket.
That's almost $100 right
My
there.
gosh, people, please keep your brass.
Yeah.
Know your friendly neighborhood brass goblin, folks. Keep your
Hmm.
brass, even if you don't reload, and give it to them.
Hmm.
Give it to them. It's so much better than them finding it in a bucket. It makes it so
That's been
frustrating.
rained on and
Oh
you
my
gotta.
gosh.
Oh yeah.
So, and just so kind of wrapping up the 308 talk, I still don't see this cartridge disappearing anytime soon. I don't.
I'm kind of scared. I
What?
think it because the military is not making it anymore. I don't think.
They are.
Well, they're of course for maintaining their current weapon systems, but in the next 40 years,
So if you got to think about this, and this goes back to the name 762 NATO. This is
you're
a
right.
NATO cartridge. So US isn't the only one loading it,
Hmm.
and this is why I got head stamp brass from like Greece because like they're part of NATO. So I mean, you can Italians, the
Hmm.
British, the French, the Spanish, the Germans, all of them are loading. Granted, not to the capacity we are, but like 762 NATO is still being loaded to some military capacity.
Hmm.
And even if the U.S. military is moving to the 277 Fury, one, that's going to take a long time,
Hmm.
like a really long time, because the rifles are just non-existent.
Yeah.
And then also, what's NATO going to do? NATO hasn't done anything. They haven't moved to a different cartridge. They're still with the 762 NATO, so
Hmm.
they have to keep up inventory.
You got a fair point there. Actually,
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. That's I guess in the United States specifically, I'm kind of concerned because
yeah.
I guess with all the ammo prices going up, I
Oh,
would assume that's part of the two
excuse
the
us.
Fury. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they're making it
Sig.
was yeah, SIG
Yeah.
got the contract to manufacture that and they took over Lake City, didn't they?
Did they? I don't
I
know.
think
I
so.
thought it was a Czech company that
I think
took Lake City.
Winchester lost their contract, so
Oof.
Winchester's not in control of Lake City anymore. And now it's SIG. And they're making, SIG stuff
I'm
at
not
Lake City.
complaining.
So,
Sig makes some good stuff. They've made some great stuff compared to some of the downfalls of Winchester,
mm,
I'll say. Not that they've dropped the ball, but
I'll say from a mechanical engineering standpoint, I feel like the Spear is a genuine improvement over like anything that's been done with the AR-15 platform in the last, 20 years.
being a wood gun guy,
Mm,
I would have to hold one to be able to say that.
uh,
Because I look at it, and granted, isn't it like a buffer tube-less system?
mm-hmm,
So like I can see a great benefit to that having a folding stock. It's
mm,
very nice. At the same time, I look at it and think, nah, I could see where the AR-15 evolved into this.
mm,
Um, and so, if I were to hold one, maybe shoot one, see how it performed, see how it did, I think I could say, yeah, there's some merit here.
mm,
Until then, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see what a bolt gun in 277 Fury would do.
mm,
Not that it'd be great because you still can't load it to 80,000 psi.
mm.
What the heck, Sig? Uh, but regardless, I think the 277 Fury is doing what I think they wanted 308 to do, which
Mhm,
was the part of the 308 they wanted to mimic the performance of a 30-06, which in all intents and purposes, with a 150 grain projectile, it kind of does that. You
mhm,
do lose a little bit. It is a lesser performing cartridge, but it's to me it's marginal enough not to care. So I would like to see the 277 Fury in a bolt gun and compare it to what a 270 Winchester is doing.
mhm.
And that's a comparison I'd like to see.
Yeah.
So with that, folks, I think we are going to close it out. We talked about a lot this episode, and granted, I understand not all of it was on the 308. That's okay though. I mean, this is an insane topic,
Mm,
and to talk about this cartridge for just an hour without going into um, literally everything we went into is impossible. So
mm,
it was going to happen. But It was a good talk.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for joining me, Carson. And for everyone out there, we have Instagram, we have Spotify. For those listening on Spotify, we have YouTube. That's kind of our primary thing. We do have Patreon. We're publishing exclusive content on Patreon quite a bit now. So keep an eye out for that. And our shorts. If you've seen our shorts, thank you for the views. And I think that's good enough for me, Carson. You have anything to close us out with?
Good enough for me. I just like to say that the 308's a fantastic cartridge for anyone here in America. It's got a beautiful history, in
Yeah.
my opinion, and it feels like a red-blooded American cartridge.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to
The
me.
way I see it is it's a good cartridge for everything.
Mhm.
It is probably as decent as you can get for something that you want to do everything. It's good at a lot of things. I don't think it's fantastic for one specific thing.
I think 308's fantastic. You just say 308, and that may as well be a testosterone pill right there. Like, that's just fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's like saying Bud Light.
So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, folks, any application you got for 308, it'll do her.
Mhm.
I'd say pretty confidently. So, with that, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.